suck at intros. Just genuinely suck at intros. Hi guys, so today I want to talk about my past and a little bit of a story about how I almost sponsored the professional skateboarder Bastien Salabanzi. To start the story, I have to go back a little bit, actually quite a few years now. When I was still at school and when I finished school, I must have been around 16 or 17 at the time, I started a skateboard company with a friend of mine. And we'd been skateboarders for a long time, and it is something we did as children. The reason I want to tell this story actually is because I've been watching a lot more skateboard content on YouTube, like Braille Skateboarding. It's a great channel, it's really good. Skateboarding is something that, even though I don't do it a lot today, is something that I'm still super interested in, and I still try and follow it. And if I see skateboard clips, I'll still watch them and be in awe of the amazing tricks they do. So back then, when I was about 16 or 17, me and a friend started this company. The skateboard company, which we were going to do skateboards and clothing, called Access Skateboards, and we did it for probably 4 years. We printed a number of different board designs, and we did T-shirts and things like that. And we were trying to set up this business and make it a successful business. Which in the end, it turned out it wasn't really working the way it wanted to be, and we didn't really have the time we wanted to put to it. So we ended up closing down effectively. But anyway. So I thought this was a bit of an interesting story, and it's a pretty cool story in my opinion. So if you don't know, if you've never heard of this professional skateboarder called Bastien Salabanzi, he's actually insanely good. Obviously he would be, he's a professional, but he's an insanely good professional skateboarder from France. He's skated for some impressive skateboard brands, and he continues to do that today. I noticed that an interview went up with him. He was on a podcast. I'm not entirely sure what the podcast was, but He's been on a podcast recently. He's still very active in the skateboard scene. The company we set up, Access Skateboards, was our goal was to be a board company. We would make the actual boards. Bastien Salabanzi's current board sponsor is Primitive Skateboards, which I believe is owned by, or at least started by, Paul Rodriguez, which is he's a huge skateboarder. I feel like if you're watching this, you have to know about skateboarding, otherwise it's not really going to be of any interest to you. So if I'm explaining things stupidly, then I'm sorry. And also, if I'm getting these things wrong, then that's just because I'm kind of a little bit out of the loop. But previously he skated for Flip, which I don't think it's as huge as it used to be now. But at the time I was skating, Flip was one of the major brands. Jart as well is another board company he skated for. He's had sponsors from Vans and Etnies, so serious shoe sponsors as well. He's a professional skateboarder. And at one point, I know one of the skaters that we sponsored, he was also the artist, well, one of the artists that we used to design clothing and boards and stuff. He let me know about Bastien Salabanzi. And at the time, he had no board sponsor. I had never heard of him before this point, before it was mentioned to me. But then obviously I looked him up, checked out his videos, and I was like, this guy is amazing. And at that time, I think he'd already skated in the in Street League, which was like really cool for me because Rob Dyrdek, who I believe started Street League, is one of like my all-time idols, I guess. He was an awesome skateboarder. A cool businessman. He did some awesome TV shows that I really enjoyed watching. To see someone like Bastien skate in an event like that was really cool to me, and I was like, I mean, it's a long shot, and I knew it was a long shot, but I'm going to message him on Facebook, because that was how we did things at the time, because it was a few years ago, and I still use Facebook. I thought I'll shoot him a message and see if we can come to some sort of sponsorship agreement. And to me, it was like this would have been a huge break for me and the company at the time, Access Skateboards, that we were running, to get somebody with this much experience and just skill. So I took the shot. I mean, the worst that could happen is that he didn't reply, so I didn't really see the problem. So I messaged him saying that I know he currently has no board sponsor. I can't remember for the life of me why. So this was back in 2012, so I'm not sure what had happened to him, whether he had been injured or just dropped by a team. I don't know. So I messaged him saying I know he had no board sponsor, and I had set up a new company called Access Skateboards, and I wanted to sponsor him if he would be down. And to my surprise, he actually responded to me, which was insane. The fact that I was speaking to a professional skateboarder was really cool. He said if I had a decent contract, he would basically be in, which I thought it's like, that's insane. Back then with the company that we were running, we didn't have a lot of money. I'd spent most of the money that I had on buying initial stock and things like that. So we actually had boards and t-shirts and stickers and whatever else we had. And we were doing things pretty much a lot for ourselves. I remember like we used to print t-shirts and we attempted to print our own boards and things like that. So I said to him, because this is what we did at the time, any members of the skate team that we had, we asked them to buy their own boards, which it's not normally what you do. And, you know, if I had this opportunity again, I would have liked to been able to give them boards. But at the time, we just couldn't afford to do that. So we charged them the price it cost us to buy the boards. So we didn't make any money off them. But I said to him, because of who he was, we were quite happy to like send him free stuff. I made an exception for him. I was quite happy to lose money on sending him stuff because I was pretty sure that he would bring in a lot more sales. That's pretty much how sponsorship works anyway. So over a month since I'd heard from him at this point, after we discussed that and he said he was interested. So then he did reply to me and apologize for being late at replying, which is fine. I'm not going to argue with the guy because I wanted him on side. But he'd been in the States apparently, and he said, make me an offer I can't refuse and we'll start talking. And obviously I don't have a lot to offer him at the time, being such a tiny company. So I wrote an entirely huge thing, a massive paragraph. Basically I offered him a bunch of boards, t-shirts, beanies. Then I said every 2 months we'd give him another 2 boards, which thinking about it now, that would not have been enough boards at all. So at this point it went downhill. He said thank you, but he passed on the project basically. There's nothing I could do. I couldn't really offer him any more because I didn't have any more to offer him. I couldn't just give him a ridiculous amount of boards. I would be just losing too much. I wouldn't have even had boards to sell if I gave him so many boards because I would have given him the entire stock. You know, I was young and I was trying to do this company and it was just a difficult time, but it was so cool to be able to think that we were close. I'd like to think that we were close. We were probably miles away. He probably wanted like a wage and everything. Shortly after that, he did move to Primitive Skateboards, which, like I said, a huge brand, like massive brand owned by a professional skateboarder. So, I mean, he's doing well for himself. And I don't know how my life would have been different had I got him. I don't know whether I'd still be doing that company now, whether I'd be doing YouTube now. But if you just look at some of the footage of him and how he skated and how he still skates, he's been in some major videos. Like I think it's the Flip I'm Sorry video he's been in. He does some insane gaps. And it's just, he's such an amazing skater. And to be able to say that I was close to sponsoring him, I may have not been close. I may not have been close at all. But I actually had a conversation with him and he was interested. And it was nice to actually have somebody who didn't treat us less than anyone else. He was interested in the company. He was interested in potentially being a part of it, even though we were a small UK-based company that had been going a year. We didn't have a hell of a lot of boards. We had about 3 boards, I think, at the time, 3 different designs. Almost sponsored Bastien Salabanzi, but unfortunately, you know, couldn't offer him what he wanted, so he went to Primitive Skateboards. It's just odd. It's just a very odd little weird little story. So I thought I'd get it out there. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to edit this video into something that makes sense, but I'll do my best. Anyway, so there's my little story. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you're a skateboarder, if you've heard of Bastien Salabanzi, let me know what you think. And it's not a bullshit story. It's true. It's a true story. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!